Hello, and welcome to Self-Care and Managing Stress in the Pandemic, Tips from Peer Health Alumni webinar, hosted by USask College of Arts and Science. Please be aware that we will not be utilizing the chat function in this webinar. If you have a question for the presenter, please submit it in the Q&A box. Other attendees will not be able to view your questions until it has been answered. Hello and welcome to the second webinar in our Shift series, Self-Care and Managing Stress in the Pandemic, Tips from Peer Health Alumni. My name is Therese Coleman and I'm an Alumni Engagement Officer here at the College of Arts and Science at the University of Saskatchewan. I am joined by current Arts and Science student Maria Hanif, who is in her second year of Health Studies and is assisting with the webinar today. Thanks for being here, Maria. The University of Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nation and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We would like to welcome all of you, our alumni, students, and friends from whatever treaty territory or land you are joining us from. Although we are unable to gather in person, it is great to have this online opportunity to connect and learn with you. Maria, can you please introduce today's speakers?
Hello. Today's presenters, Shiney and Elizabeth, both recently graduated from USask with Bachelor of Arts degrees in psychology. Shiney holds a certificate in criminology and addictions. She's been involved in various student groups and departments on campus, as well as with organizations in the community. She enjoys giving back to the community that made her feel welcome 4.5 years ago when she first arrived in Saskatoon. As a former international student, she continues to be involved in welcoming new international students and showing them the warmth of the city of Saskatoon despite the cold weather. Elizabeth is the social media coordinator at Peer Health USask. She previously facilitated the mental wellness group and continues to be passionate about mental health and normalizing strategies to prevent stress and burnout. A recent USask grad, Elizabeth is continuing her education in social work at the University of Regina. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us today, Shiney and Elizabeth.
Thank you for that welcome, Maria and Therese. We're really glad to be here. So I'm going to share our presentation, if that's okay. Okay, I hope that everybody can see our presentation. And if you have any questions, Maria is volunteered to help us throughout, so thank you. So our presentation is actually online and we'll share the link for you to participate in our questions as well. So hopefully you all will participate in that. And we are glad to be here. So Elizabeth and I actually live in the same house, so that's why we're here in one space. So it's
not breaking any household rules.
Yeah. And we are here to talk about our favorite topic, stress, because, you know, who doesn't feel stressed, right? So to start with, I want to talk a little bit about myself. I see some familiar names in the attendees, so hello, friends. Thanks for coming. And for those of you who don't know me, I graduated from U of S in 2018, like Maria said. And, you know, I have stuck around because it's familiar and I really like University of Saskatchewan, and I continue to find work and volunteer opportunities here. The pandemic has obviously been tough for me, as it has been for all of us. And as I came to Saskatoon as an international student many years ago, I left my family and friends behind, and a lot of them are still there. My plan was to visit my family last year, but obviously that didn't work out. So it has been tough not seeing my parents, my grandparents, and my sibling. We are a very close-knit family, and while technology has helped us and made it easier to communicate, the face-to-face connection is still important. I have been working from home since we were told to work from home last year in March. So it got really tough last year because I was living alone. So like a lot of people, I got a companion pet. So I started fostering this rescue cat, and it has been a blessing because we give each other good company, and a lot of times he likes to jump into my video calls as well. So that's really nice, special appearance. And so, you know, in the beginning of this pandemic, everyone was making bread and doing push-up challenges on Instagram, and like all sorts of dances were coming up. And I felt like I was comparing myself to them and asking myself what my hobby was, because I felt like it was not obvious at all. And I don't think I had one focus, because as human beings, like, we're not that simple that we can have just one hobby in our lives. So I realized that I was coping and I was taking it day by day. And because, you know, things are changing so fast, like a year later, and we're still kind of where we were a year before. So things change so fast. So just taking it day by day. And that was, I think, what I was doing. So that's what I learned from this year of a pandemic. And I hope that as we go through today, that you will see both Elizabeth and I have got some tools we prepared for you, both from personal experience and research, and hope you will use those to get through this, hopefully the last leg of the pandemic and the stress that it has put us through.
And so I'm Elizabeth, and I'm also a USask girl. I graduated in 2017, and I'm in my last term of social work. I've been doing my practicum in child protection. So I got a lot of first-hand knowledge about burnout there, but thankfully haven't been there long enough to really feel it. And then, like Shiney, and I'm sure a lot of you have found, my level of stress has increased significantly since COVID started last year. In particular, I've found it really hard trying to juggle everything from home, from virtual classes to my virtual practicum to my virtual job. It all just kind of went into this melting pot and became kind of one place for everything. So today we're going to be talking about, can you do the next slide? So today we're going to talk about stress in this COVID-19 time. I remember when we were first asked to do this presentation, I thought, well, things seem to be getting a bit better out there. So I don't really know how applicable this is going to be by the time we do it. And I was really wrong. So I guess fortunately for our presentation, but unfortunately in a lot of other ways, this is still applicable. So we're going to start by talking about the types of stressors that young adults are facing and some of the coping trends that we have noticed in response. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the presentation walking you through steps to identify, acknowledge, and overcome stress, as well as ways to build your resilience.
So our presentation is online. You can join with this QR code, and we'll also share the link here, which is ahslides.com/shift2021, and you can participate in our questions. So I hope you've already got this, and I'm going to move to the next slide, which is one of the questions we kind of want to ask you. How are you doing? So tell us a little bit about, like, share in a few words, how are you doing? We're doing okay today. It's a little cloudy, so that obviously affects our mood, at least for me. What about you? How are you doing?
I've got so much paperwork to do. So I've taken a little break from my practicum right now, and I want to be fully present here, but also I'm like, I have so much paperwork to do after lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. I'm glad everyone's sharing, and I think, like, I can relate to a lot of these words on a daily. I think I cycle through them, feeling unmotivated, drained, and hungry. Yeah, I mean, it is lunch hour, so it's good to be feeling hungry for sure. So yeah, I'm glad everyone's sharing. Thank you. Ready for summer for sure. What is this cycle we're going through, right?
Yeah.
We got surprised with some snow a few days ago. Yeah. Welcome back to winter. Was it like the third winter or something?
Doesn't really count. It was too short-lived.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, everyone, and you can continue sharing. There's no ends, and you can see each other's responses as well. So we'll move on to the next slide. So we want to talk a little bit about the stressors everyone has been experiencing during the pandemic. So
According to research.
yeah, according to our own research, according to our own experiences, and according to like some research online as well. So lots of information. So, you know, if the global pandemic has left you feeling uncertain, you're not alone. As you can see, like research has also shown that there is a lot of stressors right now going through people's minds. The rug has been pulled out from under you, and your expectations for school, work, and your social life has been turned upside down. And in such conditions, worry, confusion, and frustration are normal reactions. But you don't have to struggle alone, because help is available. And I am glad you are here. We are glad you are here, because we know that it means that you recognize your struggles and you want to learn more about coping. So really important that you recognize that. And you know, what's been stressing us about around the pandemic is like some of these from research has shown, and these are some of the trends that we found. And from your responses before, you can probably see yourself being affected by some of these stressors in the past year. And then with those stressors, there comes coping. So it is important to recognize how we are coping and what we are using, and if it is helping us or not helping us. Especially substance use. Substance use has gone up over the past year or so, and excessive use of substances can enhance feelings of hopelessness and should be avoided, because like alcohol is a big downer for sure. So it might make you feel good for a little while, but it will definitely make you feel bad after a while. So yeah, when you're using substances, evaluate how much you are using. And if you think you were using too much or your level of substance use has gone up, then there is help available, and we'll share some resources as well. And you know, the reason why we're bringing these trends to your attention is because you might see them in yourself, you might see them in others, and we want you to recognize that it's something that if you have witnessed in yourself, that you are not alone, because these are quite the trend right now. So I think I have probably gone through these 5 things every day. So it's okay. You're not alone, and talking about it and recognize it is the first step in the right direction here. So
one stressor that we wanted to highlight in particular is isolation. So we'll be speaking a little bit more about connection and the importance of that later, but it's important for right now at least to keep in mind the impact isolation has on us. Isolation is not the norm for most of us. It's something that we've been forced into. And we bring it up because in the articles and yeah, I guess research that we read, the stress of being in isolation was frequently the common denominator, exacerbating the other stressors that we were mentioning on the other page. And one study in particular compared Canadian university students' well-being before and after the pandemic started. And they hypothesized that the consequence of self-isolation has been feelings of depression, increased anxiety, and binge drinking. All things that we saw in the previous slides, that's trends in coping. So last year, when we did the similar presentation, we discussed Christina Maslach's research on burnout. And when I was reviewing that presentation in preparation for making this one, these dimensions of burnout really stood out for me in a different way. So Maslach defines burnout as mismatches between yourself and your work environment. For me, I found that I did feel like there was an imbalance between my work, school, and personal self. Having to do everything from home, I identified with the dimensions listed here. Not being able to go physically to school or work, I felt very detached from those roles. And that isolation made me think more negatively and doubt my ability. And my procrastination was at an all-time high. And as you likely know, stress is not always a bad thing. Stress can be motivating. However, just like how stress is a response to a challenge, burnout is a response to chronic stress. So instead of feeling motivated, focused, and engaged, someone who's experiencing burnout struggles to accomplish tasks, is worn out, and doesn't get the same sense of reward from their job like they did before. And I'm not saying we're all burnt out, but I am saying that a lot of these things seem a lot more relevant this year going through it than they did last year. So I definitely wanted to include it.
And while we're talking about burnout, we're also going to talk about self-care. So self-care is a trendy buzzword, and I'm sure you have heard of it. And I don't think I need to define it, but I'll talk about what it means. And it is a part of resilience. It is a part of building a plan for yourself and finding the strategies that work for you to maintain or get an equilibrium in your health. It can be personal, it can be professional, but really personal self-care requires professional self-care as well. And it adds meaning to your life. It creates less chances of burnout for sure, and eventually improves your overall well-being. So workplace, study, space, self-care can look different for different people. But for example, at work for me, I work from home, so I like to make my workplace more cozy, like with good lighting. Sometimes having pictures of my everybody like I like in my life around, and sometimes because the last year I wasn't able to see them, they sent me cards, so I like putting them around the office as well to remind me that I am important and I am loved by a lot of people. And like other things you can do is put up, nourish yourself at lunch, get up, stretch, move around if you need to, declutter, and let people know that how you're feeling if you're not feeling okay, like if that's your professor or your employer. And acknowledge your accomplishments. That's really important because sometimes we don't appreciate how far we've come. Like you've made it through one whole year of life-changing pandemic. So acknowledge that. That's really important. And you know what? It will take time to find what you need in terms of self-care and what you enjoy. And Elizabeth will touch a little bit more on that and how to create a plan for yourself as well towards the end. I also want to say, like, because it takes time, self-care is not quick and easy, even though the self-help industry really, really likes to tell us that it is quick and easy. And if you buy their book or their product, I mean, if that works for you, for sure, but you have to know that it takes time. It isn't impossible, but it is a practice that requires work, and it requires you to maybe you try something that is someone else's self-care plan, but in the end, it has to be individualized to what you want. For me, I like to hang out with my friends or family. I am what you might say an extrovert. So one of the hardest things for me, it was different to do that virtually, obviously. So really important is that when we start doing our self-care plan, if you want to try someone else's self-care plan, that's fine, but it might be a good place to start. But really know that you have to find something that makes you feel better. And I really love this quote, which says that really you have to put yourself first and treat yourself with kindness. Treat yourself like you are your own friend. So if your friend was going through stress, then how would you react? You wouldn't tell them to be like, get over it or something. You would be compassionate and you would be nice to them and would hear them out. So put that same kind of energy towards yourself and give yourself the love and attention that you also deserve. So, yeah.
Okay, so we talked about how stress during a pandemic can look for young professionals and students and why self-care is important. So now we're going to take some time to talk about how we can take better care of ourselves and be more resilient. So that starts with acceptance. Sometimes easier said than done, but acceptance helps us decipher what is and isn't in our control. This starts with acknowledging that your experience is legitimate. When we're able to accept that we're stressed instead of trying to fight it, we're better able to work through those heavy emotions. So that means instead of getting all wrapped up in shame and frustration, acceptance allows us to acknowledge what it is that's going on, to be more mindful, and to find appropriate ways to cope. So unsurprisingly, there's nothing we can do to change what's going on right now. All we can do is change how we respond to what's going on around us. So you've accepted that this pandemic has put a major damper on your life. So what now? And what's in your control? So acceptance can come more easily if we reshape how we think about our current situation. So this is some information from the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Just some examples of things that we can do to reframe our thinking of the pandemic and our situation. So it starts with reshaping how we act about it. That can be doing something each day to take control of your holistic well-being. It's acknowledging how you're feeling by identifying the emotion and accepting that that's how you feel right now, but that's not how you'll feel forever. And that you have some power to change how it is you feel in the moment. And it's also to reshape how we talk about it. So just like how what we say is a reflection of how we're feeling, how we talk about it, how we talk about the pandemic can also influence how we feel about it. And most importantly, remember that you're already resilient. Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed. I bet hard money that you guys have all probably gone through some kind of hardship in your life. And guess what? You're still here and you're okay. And just like then, you're going to be okay in the future as well. You wouldn't have been able to get through that time in your life if you weren't already resilient. So we would like to know what it is that makes you resilient. I would say for me, I think I'm pretty consistent in my physical well-being, taking time each day to be outside, to move my body. I find that really helps. Oh, I like these. Discipline, that's one I do need to work on, I'm not gonna lie. What about you, Shiney?
I have to think about this a little bit. Yeah, I think I can relate to a lot of this, where like friends and family, and really I'm very close knit with my family. We're close knit family, so having that support really, really helps. So thanks for sharing. It's so nice to see that everybody has so many things that makes them resilient, and that's really great. So remember those when you're going through a stressful time. Think about what makes you resilient and what helps you get through, because that kind of mindset can really, really help. So thanks for your answer. So it is equally important to know what makes you tick and what turns you off. So what makes you resilient as well. Sorry, I kind of lost my words there. So everything is changing day by day, right? Like Elizabeth said, like when we were making this presentation, we had no idea that we would be in the situation that we are in right now. And everything is being called into question about how you learn, how you interact with instructors, friends, classmates, even how you graduate. So the best way to prepare for navigating the unknown is to flex your resiliency muscles. And everyone reacts to stress differently. So each body sends out its own set of red flags. So some people may not even feel the physical or emotional warning signs until hours or days after a stressful activity. So, but when you do notice a stiff back or that you're snapping at your friends, pay attention to the signs and listen to what your body is telling you. By noticing how you respond to stress, you can manage it better and in healthy ways, which will help your body correct itself, reducing the high cost of care of chronic long-term health problems. So your body's stress warning signs can tell you a lot about when something isn't right. So just like a car check engine light goes on, if you neglect the alert signs sent out by your body, you could have a major engine malfunction. Stress that is left unchecked or poorly managed is known to contribute to high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and mental illness. So when things aren't going your way, or you feel like you're losing control, or you are overwhelmed, pay attention to that warning sign. Some of them can be like headaches or sleep disturbances, irritability, tight muscles, trouble concentrating, or over or under eating, these are some of the ways that your body is telling you that it needs extra maintenance and care. For me personally, I find that I always get this like really bad pain in the back of my neck when I've had a few stressful situations come up. So I always know that, okay, I need to take a step back. So tell us about how do you know that you're under too much stress? So anything that you want to share with us?
And I'm a big stress eater.
Yeah.
Yeah. When all of a sudden I have to buy groceries more frequently, I know it's time to check myself.
Yeah.
Can't concentrate. Yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah. Oh man, migraines are tough.
Yeah. Crying at small things. Yep.
A few days ago, I just like screamed into my pillow for like half an hour because I was just like, I had it and I just needed a good scream. So definitely, yeah. Sometimes you're too stressed and you need to take it out. So really great responses, guys. Thank you. Looks like a lot of you share the check engine light situation.
I
So
like the one that says not replying to emails on time. I didn't even think of that, but you're right on the nose there. Hangry. That's good. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. I was really worried that we were just going to sit and stare at a blank screen for a long time, but this is awesome.
yeah. I mean, remember these when you're thinking about what you're feeling and how you're doing. So remember, keep these in mind. Thanks for sharing. So talking about physical distancing, we have had a lot of talks about physical distancing and how much it's important, but also what does it do? Like it creates the side effect of social isolation. Using video chats, phone calls, texting, and emails to stay connected with friends, classmates, and coworkers, and even family is so important because when we're so distant from each other physically, it can get really, really isolating. And then Elizabeth talked about isolation as well in the beginning and how it has deeply affected many people through this pandemic. Personally, I like to stay in touch with my close family and friends, and because I was an international student, leaving my family and friends behind, it was a little bit easier for me to adjust because I'd already been doing this throughout my university life. But I know that Elizabeth found it really hard because, like living here with everybody here, it can be hard to stay far away from everybody you love and like try to change into like going into a Zoom call with your friends, like when they live a block away. That's so hard. Yeah. So it can be different for different people. And I think it takes a lot of adjusting and relearning on what works and what doesn't work. Like I don't personally like doing Zoom calls with my family because I find that I use my laptop for work. So I don't like using my laptop for personal things. I try to use my phone instead. So that really works for me. So really finding what works for you is important because staying connected is really important. But another side to staying connected is that you can be overwhelmed. So, you have to learn about what medium of socialization works for you. There's so many. And, setting boundaries is so, so important because like before the pandemic, I remember I was always connected on Instagram and all that stuff with my friends and family. But now, like, because of the pandemic and because we're forced to use that connecting with everybody is always posting on there and there's like a ton of information all the time. So really knowing setting your boundaries with social media consumption or any kind of media consumption is really important. Find the most important communication channels that work for you and manage how frequently you engage with them. There are a number of apps that you can use to control the notifications and how much you use. If you feel like you want to lock your app and not use it at all, you can even do that. There's apps for that. Aim to be informed, not overwhelmed, because in the beginning of this pandemic, I had downloaded all these like 5 different news apps on my phone, and then I was constantly getting notifications about everything, and I felt like there was constant doomsday predictions, and I found myself getting really, really anxious all the time. So I found it easier to just delete all of them and only check the news once a week because every day seems like there's something new coming up and it's just a lot of stress and I need to set my own boundaries with them. So know when you need to draw the line on something and take a step back. Use those questions in that last question that you answered and how you said when you know you're under too much stress, use those as warning signs to know when you need to take a step back.
So managing stress proactively aligns with getting to know your red flags, knowing what your personal signs of being under too much stress will help you be able to address it earlier. Sorry, I'm just gonna click the next slide here. Whoop. Sorry guys, got multiple screens going on, so I don't always know where the mouse is. So here's a little outline for how you can start to create a stress management plan. So first is to identify what it is that's causing you the stress and how it's affecting you. So of course, how it affects you can be those red flags, can also be something new. But being able to name what it is that you're feeling and being able to name what you think is causing it can be really helpful. And as I talked about earlier, how just thinking back to a time in your life where you felt a lot of stress or you were feeling really overwhelmed, take notes of the behaviors that helped you de-stress at that time. And if it was helpful then, chances are it's helpful now. And when you're choosing things to help you de-stress, just keep in mind of your holistic well-being. So things you can do to help your physical, mental, social, and your spiritual health. And then pick something you can do consistently. So Shiney and I were joking that if like somebody thought like whitewater rafting was like the ultimate de-stressor, that's awesome. But likely not something you can do consistently. So whatever you can do every day, or switch it up, something you can do new every day is probably the best choice. And make sure to hold yourself accountable. If something helps you de-stress, do it every day when you need it the most, and especially when you're not stressed. Because when you get to a moment and you're feeling really overwhelmed, you want to have practiced those de-stressing activities enough that it's kind of just second nature to get back into it. And like Shiney said earlier, self-care isn't quick and easy. You can experiment with some different routines. So Shiney was talking about feeling really overwhelmed by social media or news. And I've heard a lot of people talking about doing like a phone-free morning. So just not even using their phone for like, I mean, the whole morning is a lot to ask for probably, but like even like the first hour or something, seeing how that works. Doesn't work, you know, maybe it's like a lunchtime walk or something, just like playing with your routine, seeing how you feel and giving yourself time for trial and error. So when you are experimenting with your routine, think about in a moment, like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling like this poor guy on the couch right now? Okay, well, what was I doing? Or what was going on for me at that moment? Or what did I not do? And then adjust, change your behavior, change your thought pattern. Of course, changing your thought pattern is a lot easier said than done, but make some sort of changes and try again. And lastly, our advice is to stay present. Take each day as you come, focus on whatever it is you can control. Like Shiney said, it's important to stay informed. There's a lot of really important causes and events that are happening, but it can be really overwhelming. And it's also important to become familiar with accurate sources and be able to take breaks when you need it. And yeah, doing these things, staying present, worrying less about what's going on in the future or what could happen, and trying to let go of like what has happened. So for our last quote, you or me? Okay. It's just from Meg J. She is the one who we adapted some of these steps from in her how to become more resilient. And she says to focus on the resilience and see yourself as someone who is even better prepared for life than the average person because you've already lived so much of it. I think that's really true.
Yeah, and before we end, and we have some space for question and answers as well, I want to share a few apps and resources because it's, like Elizabeth said, really important to keep your information from a valid source. And because of all the misinformation that we can receive, it's good to check your sources. So you can take a picture or a screenshot of this slide if you like. If nothing else, I hope that you take some resources with you. So the U of S Wellness website is really, really great for getting started on reliable information about any kind of introductory topic you need. CAMH provides a lot of detailed information if you need to know something specific about mental illness or some kind of substance use. And what it looks like. And then Mental Health YXC is actually made by a Saskatoon resident, and it's a great collection of local resources. So if you ever need more resources about local stuff or to refer to a friend, it's a great collection of that. Are you a podcast person? Because I am not always. And you know, those morning breaks, sometimes, yeah, I'll listen to a podcast to get started because I wake up super early because I'm a morning person. Anyway, so sometimes I'll start my day off with a walk around the block or a cup of tea indoors, depending on the weather. And I really like podcasts that are short during this time, so like 10 minutes. For that, I use Radio Headspace on Spotify. It's 10-minute daily reminders. So it's really great for that. There's also the Headspace app by the same company. It's for meditation. I'm sure most of us have seen the ads or heard of it. And on Netflix, there is a guide from by Headspace to get started on meditation as well, if you think that is something for you. The Headspace app is at a cost though, so that's a little barrier. If you like to learn more about positive psychology or health and well-being or relationship, the Positive Psychology podcast is pretty great too. Meditation Minis is like, if you like to do short meditation, so like 10-minute meditation every day can really help as well. It's a guided meditation. If you don't like guided meditation and just listening to calming music, it's pretty good too. And then if you are a person who likes to journal, like I do, I like to do gratitude journal. There is some apps for that. So Mood Space is an app for that as well. It comes at a cost of $4.99, a one-time fee, and then you can use all of it. Otherwise, there's also Happify that kind of helps you through activities with you can create your own goals on what you want to do as well. It's also at a cost. So when you're choosing resources and apps, I want you to keep in mind some of the most important things, like security and privacy is really, really important to me. So when I'm choosing an app, I always try to choose an app that is, I know that won't misuse my information. And price sometimes can be a barrier, so keep those in mind. So do your research on an app before you decide that whether it's right for you or not. So yeah, to end with, please put your questions in the chat, and I think Maria will really help us out there.
And then what's one thing that you think you're going to work on?
Yeah, tell us. We'll love to know.
Did I talk over you?
No, of course not.
While we are waiting for those answers to come in, thank you so much, Shiney and Elizabeth, for that excellent presentation. I know that I definitely felt like a lot of the things you were talking about resonated with me, especially in the current state of things right now. So thank you so much for providing your expertise to us today. Before we pop on to the Q&A, I just wanted to say a few extra things. So we're going to move to the Q&A session of the presentation. We just have a few minutes for it. So pop in your questions at the very bottom. Maria, if you want to put up the slide that gives the instructions for the Q&A, it's just at the very bottom of your screen, and you can enter your questions there. Taha will be moderating. So Taha is our our student moderator, who is here with us today. And he is currently in his 3rd year as a biochemistry student in the College of Arts and Science and has lived in Saskatoon for 8.5 years. In the future, he plans to pursue further studies in the sciences. And thank you for moderating our Q&A today, Taha. So once you enter a question into the Q&A, Taha will verbally submit it to Shiney and Elizabeth, and they'll try to answer it as best they can. So thank you for putting your questions in there right now. I just wanted to mention as well, for current students who are attending, if you attend 3 or more shift sessions, you will receive a co-curricular record credit, and the CCR credit is a personalized and official record of the university approved and facilitated activities that you've been involved in while you're a student here. If you have more questions about that, we did put some information in the chat. We also have a few things to mention. We have a door prize today for today's session. So it's a USask blanket, and I will be drawing for the winner after the event is over and contacting them by email. So check your email later today to see if you've won this blanket. For those who attend all 5 shift sessions, we will be giving away a pair of Apple AirPods as well. And you will see that we've been recording today's session. So anybody that wants to watch this again and get more information, you can access it on our YouTube channel. Taha, I'm going to turn it over to you for the Q&A now. Thank you.
Okay. So right now we have one question in the Q&A box. So the person asks, with all classes being online, it's hard to stay motivated and do assignments and stuff. Is there a way to at least keep up to date with the course outline or like the course calendar?
So you can answer. So I can answer. I understand what you're saying. Especially, I know for a lot of people who don't actually live in Saskatoon, and since all this pandemic stuff started, have moved home, it's been even hard to keep up with time changes, time zones. Yeah, like you have to go to class a lot earlier, or there's a lot of things to keep in mind and to stay organized. One thing I found that helped me was to have a specific space to do my work. I don't live in a very big space, so I just chose like it's not even a kitchen table, it's like a little island thing, but like it just wasn't my bedroom, it wasn't the couch. That helped me, and I am like a big fan of agendas and lists. Like everything I write in my agenda, I also put on a wall calendar, and I also put it on my phone. So usually the first thing I do is I look on my syllabus and I like enter everything in on all, I need all 3 things, otherwise I will forget. And I'll even give myself like a 2-week reminder for assignments. And then just make lists of like what I want to achieve in a day, and it's taken time, but I've learned to be comfortable with the fact that I can't necessarily get it all done in a day, but that's how I try and stay organized, and it seems to work.
Okay, I think you answered this next question in your answer right now a bit. There's asked how to deal with procrastination, basically.
So do you have another question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any tips on how to balance feeling too isolated, but also feeling too overwhelmed when I have to be around others?
Yeah, man, that's so true. Like I also feel that way. Like I like being around people, and I also need my own time. So I'm very like I like to set my boundaries. So if I don't want to talk to someone, and I understand that people can get offended about that, I just don't respond. I turn my phone off, and I just tell them that, sorry, I just missed your call, or sorry, I missed your message. And I reply to them when I'm like feeling better the next day or next week or whatever. Sometimes I take 3 to 5 business days to respond to my text messages. So it's fine. Take your time. It's okay to take your time and put boundaries. So recognize when you're feeling irritable, like, okay, you know what? I don't want to talk to this person, or I don't want to talk to people at all right now. I just want to do my own thing. Watch some Netflix, chill out, put on some candles, take a bath, whatever you need to do to relax, take a walk. Yeah.
I think I can speak to this a little bit, just because I am more introverted, and so I definitely use like having to be in like self-quarantine or isolation as an excuse for being like, oh yeah, no, I can't hang out with you, man. Like, it's not safe, which is not, but like I was definitely using that as an excuse and really, really isolating myself more, because it is kind of like my sort of natural habitat, but not good for me. And one thing that has helped is I have like a scheduled like chat with like one friend, and it's so lame because it's like it's scheduled in like a meeting, but I don't have to worry too much about like the rest of the week, or you know, if I miss like text or something, because like I know we're gonna have like our little virtual coffee date on that one day with that one person. And yeah, that helps a little bit, but I understand what you're feeling.
Okay, our last question here. So is there a resource or anywhere I can go to find a variety of different strategies to cope or deal with stress?
For sure. I think like if you are a student and you're feeling extra overwhelmed, definitely talk to a professional. They can recommend some strategies for you, and it can help to talk to someone who knows more than probably we do. And there is a lot of resources online as well, but you have to find something that works for you. So I think making kind of a plan on recognizing, you know, what has worked for you in the past. And if meditation doesn't work for you, that's okay. It doesn't work for everybody. If going out for a walk works for you better, or if like just sitting on watching Netflix works for you better, that's fine. Like, yeah, find something that works for you. And if you want to know about like strategies that work really well for others, yeah, sure, do a Google search if you want. But don't use someone else's plan, because it's really your plan. It's your
You can start with somebody else's.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can start with it, but don't feel like you have to do their plan.
Yeah. I'd say like the Canadian Mental Health Association is always great. The Canadian Mental Health Commission is a really good one too.
Mental Health Commission of Canada.
Mental Health Commission of Canada is a great one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not a student, I know that Catholic Family Services does also offer like free drop-in if you just need like a good bouncing place to get going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question, everyone.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're just a few minutes over time, so great timing, everyone. I just have a few kind of final housekeeping things to say. Thank you again so much, Shiney and Elizabeth, for being here today and sharing all your knowledge and expertise with us. We have a small gift for both of you. So we have this USask alumni travel mug that you both have to share. Just kidding. No, you each get your own travel mug. Thank you. So I'm going to drop those off later this week, but thank you so much for your help. And Taha has actually moderated 3 of our shift sessions. So Taha, we have this USask water bottle for you. So thank you very much. And I'll also be dropping that off for you. So thank you so much. Just a last note that we have 2 more shift sessions still. Next week's is on resiliency and pivoting your career with Dr. Monique Samir. And Maria is going to put that information into the chat on where to sign up and the link to do that. There, she's just done it now. So thank you everybody so much for attending. And that is the end of our webinar. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.